And now to dive deeper into these NSA documents, I'm joined by Marcy Wheeler, investigative reporter at emptywheel.net. Marcy, thanks for coming on. What do these documents, these ones that were released by DNI Clapper yesterday, tell us about the oversight mechanisms in place, not just at the NSA, but also within the FISA court, which we've been told is the ultimate oversight institution?
Well, basically, this program, when it was put under the FISA court, operated for 2.5 years before a judge came along and started figuring out what was going on. The judge who initially approved it was a judge who was in the White House during the Nixon-Ford transition, which means he probably knew Cheney. And when he initially approved it, it was stunningly bare. It basically said, oh, sure, you can do this. And then that was in August of that year, the NSA kind of told the FISA court exactly what it was doing, although not in very clear sense. And it wasn't until 2008, and the timing of this is critically important because it wasn't until December of 2008 that, so literally the transition between the Obama administration, the Bush administration, the Obama administration, that Judge Reggie Walton took a closer look. First wrote the opinion that should have been written in 2006, laying the groundwork for why this was legal in the first place. And then within 5 weeks, 6 weeks, DOJ had come to him and said, we've got a problem because we've been doing vastly more than we told you when you approved this last month. So, you know, there's that 2.5-year period. It was the SIGINT people doing audits of this function themselves. As you guys mentioned, Director Alexander claimed to Walton in a declaration back in 2009 that, golly, they had no idea and there wasn't one person. What he actually said was there wasn't one person who knew the architecture of this entire program, but that wasn't what was at issue. What was at issue was the legal advice that the NSA's own lawyers had given. And when Alexander spoke about that, he very carefully always used it appears to be that nobody knew what they were doing. It appears, he kept using appears. So his claim that nobody knew it, no one person knew everything, first of all, is completely irrelevant to the matter at hand because it didn't address whether people understood the legal issue. Mm-hmm. But then when he talked about the legal issue, he very carefully couched his language because he was making a sworn declaration to a court. So, right. You know, it is completely unbelievable that they didn't know what they were doing because General Alexander in particular had been in charge of Cheney's illegal program before this went under the court's oversight in 2006 when they were doing this as well, gotcha. As you pointed out.
Right. Marcy, I want to move on real quick to this latest leak that The Guardian published today. Doesn't this further show that even with these minimal safeguards that the NSA claims are in place protecting U.S. citizens' data, that they're essentially meaningless as long as foreign governments like Israel, like the UK, like Germany, have free reign to search through U.S. citizens' communications and then share that information with our government? It's as though the work of spying on U.S. citizens was simply outsourced.
Right, and what's really interesting is that document was from 2009. We've seen the minimization standards from 2009, which pretty explicitly say foreign governments are only supposed to get this stuff for translation purposes, and then they're supposed to give it back. What was envisioned by that memorandum of understanding was far broader, and it was almost farcical because it said, well, if you happen to stumble upon a U.S. person's data, or God forbid, you know, an official, whether it's, you know, an executive branch official or a congressperson, please get rid of it, as if any other government would get rid of it. So it's those two documents, the minimization procedures, which the FISA court has seen, and that document, which we signed with the Israelis, are incompatible, and so we'll have to see whether the government can offer an explanation how those two things
drip, 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 drip. Marcy Wheeler, investigative reporter at emptywheel.net. Thank you.
Thanks so much.